Gentlemen, this week the name on the marquee has got to be Johnny Bones Jones, the man himself, who this past weekend, in front of 19,000 plus at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, became himself a double champ in the UFC, claiming the UFC heavyweight title by finishing Ciryl Gane at 2 minutes and 4 seconds of the very first round with a guillotine choke. Mark, let me toss it over to you first this time. Johnny Bones, already considered by many to be the MMA GOAT, claims now not just the light heavyweight, but now the heavyweight title. And he made it look very easy against a very high-level kickboxer in Ciryl Gane. What was your reaction?
He sure did. I mean, what can you say? What can you say about this man? This is not normal. Like, I know we all thought he'd win. I know Omar even thought he would do it quick. But for him to go in there and do it like that, a career light heavyweight, I know it's Jon Jones, but a career light heavyweight taking his first fight at heavyweight and not even getting touched a single time en route to victory, other than a nut shot, I guess, that is some shit. I mean, it was perfect. It was perfect. The timing from Jon to duck under that left straight and immediately take the back was so clean, and then the control, the way he leveraged his weight and circled from Gane's back to get the takedown. And then, of course, the choke that was in so suddenly, people didn't even realize it was in. The commentary didn't realize it was in. I wasn't sure it was in. And next thing you know, he's tapping, and we're out of there. I mean,
That's it.
It was a big build-up, one of these fights that just kind of ends, and you're like, oh, fuck, that was it? That's all we're getting here? But that's what happens when you're Jon Jones sometimes. I mean, that was light work for the GOAT, and he is now a two-weight champion. He will have a chance now against Stipe Miocic to close the argument of who is the GOAT with 100% certainty for anyone who doesn't already think the argument is closed. And, it was 3 years. We had to wait a long time, but you can't come back and stake your claim much more clearly than Jon Bones Jones just did.
Omar, let me get you in here. What was your reaction to Jon Jones winning in the way that he did?
I wasn't surprised. I mean, like I said last week, man, stylistically, this was a terrible matchup. Like, for Ciryl Gane. We saw him get manhandled by somebody who learned how to wrestle yesterday. And Jon Bones Jones has been manhandling legends since he was a child at this point. There was nothing for me to believe that Ciryl Gane was going to win that fight. Nothing. And so, I guess where I was surprised was how quick he found the choke, if nothing else. But I knew eventually he was going to take him to the ground, and Ciryl Gane was going to have no answer. No answer whatsoever once it actually came to fruition. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, the first choke he put in didn't really look like he had it. Then he made some kind of adjustment, some small adjustment, and he had his whole body, I think, on him, on top of just the choke itself, and it just made it worse. It was wild. I will say, I left there with more questions than I went in there with in the first place.
Did you?
A little bit.
In what regard?
Because, well, in the regard that we still haven't seen him in real danger, in a real scrap at heavyweight, right?
Oh, okay,
nothing,
sure.
Like, I'm not going to give him shit for it. He did. It was a masterful performance, right?
He did what he was supposed to do.
But it does still leave some of those questions open, and it kind of makes you wonder, which is why the Stipe Miocic fight is very interesting, because we expect Stipe to put up more of a fight than Ciryl Gane. We expect the wrestling defense and the wrestling credentials of Stipe to play to some positive aspect in the game that he's going to try to employ on Jon Jones.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, like, I'm not really sure what the cardio is going to look like from Jon Jones, right? Like, if we do go into 5 rounds, we didn't really get that question answered. Just a lot of little things that after such a dominant performance, we still don't know. And I was also thinking to myself, does this kind of prove or at least give a stronger inclination that he was just bored at light heavyweight? because this was a performance where his legacy was really on the line, right? Like, he's fighting for a heavyweight title. Everybody's watching him. He's back. He's the top of the marquee again. There's no fuck-ups as of late, or super recent. So I think it was interesting. I think it was just one of those moments that made him excited. And I don't think the what is this man's name? The Maheta? What is his name?
Thiago Santos.
Thank you. I don't think the Thiago Santos one really woke him up. I think, you know what I mean? I think he had a good fight. I think he enjoyed it. I know he said he's one of the more technical kickboxers and all this other stuff. But the reality is I think he could have done more in that fight, and he just chose not to. I don't think he felt like he needed to in that fight. And I think it was the same with the Dominic Reyes fight. I don't think he thought it was as close as everybody else thought it was. And I don't think he was motivated for any of them. I think he kind of looked and said, "Who the fuck is Dominic Reyes?" Honestly.
Sure. Dom Reyes gave him a really tough fight, one of his toughest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So it was definitely a dominant performance from Jones, but I want to see what the Stipe game ends up being, because it makes it for a very interesting fight. And on International Fight Week, headlining International Fight Week.
That
seems about right.
Yeah. I mean, the skill sets there certainly match up in a way that is going to be far more intriguing. There won't be any one running over the other in a certain area in that fight. So, I mean, and we've known this for a while. That's the fight. Even when John was rumored to come up to heavyweight, I mean, I guess the Francis one too, but like for a while, everyone was kind of like, why don't they just do Jones and Stipe? It makes so much sense. And like, here, we're finally going to get it now. So we will see.
And now the thing that concerns me about Jones in those fights, in any of these fights at this point, is that his ground game is disgusting. Like, even after a choke like that, a performance like that, I don't think people genuinely comprehend how good the kid's jiu-jitsu is. And if you've watched him in grappling competitions, because he's been in a few of them that have been televised, he's disgusting. The strength that man looks like he has is like Khabib-esque. One of those types of guys where after you've rolled with him, you're like, dude, what the fuck just happened? Like, how is he that strong? And I think he does a lot of that stuff. I mean, he made it look effortless. He made beating Ciryl Gane look like he probably had more trouble sparring guys than actually fighting Ciryl Gane.
Did you hear that? I mean, props to Chael Sonnen because he called this. But did you hear John say that he was hurt and that he only sparred 3 times his whole camp?
No.
Yeah, so Chael called it. The first 2 or even 3 episodes of Embedded, John was in the pool. And Chael was like, he's hurt. I'm telling you right now, if he's in the pool this much, it's because he's hurt. You don't see any clips of him going hard in the gym.
Oh, wow.
He's hiding some type of injury.
Right.
And I don't think John said, now I can't remember if he said what it was, but he said that he'd been dealing with an injury all camp and he only sparred 3 times. And he also said that he felt very uncomfortable standing.
That I heard.
Because of it, I guess, and that he hadn't got to have as much experience as he wanted standing. But then he kind of said, he's like, I also feel like I might go kind of back to the wrestling going forward. Like, it is my greatest skill, and I kind of stopped going toward it for a bit, and I might just become that guy again. So
hopefully he doesn't forget his elbows, man. Like, yes, the wrestling is
I don't think he will.
Definitely his bread and butter, but the elbows, man, is really what put him over the top. I mean, his elbows, he broke Brandon Vera's face.
He did.
Yeah.
It was nasty.
And how about Gane, man? I mean, you can't have a more disappointing outing than that. He didn't even get to try. He didn't even get to do anything.
If this guy go home after that fight,
if he go home,
I missed the last 2 letters there. If he goes home after that fight and plays FIFA, somebody needs to break that fucking PlayStation in his house. He needs to go back and really watch that shit and really understand. He just got sunned. Like, yes, he's the GOAT and all that shit, but like, you can't just let people do that to you.
Look, I think it's also just the difference between Jones's years and years of wrestling experience and comfort in that area and Gane's relative inexperience wrestling. If this was not Pride, what's the kickbox? I'm blanking.
One? K1?
played a thing in New York. I'm brain.
Warriors Cup?
No.
I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you asking?
K1?
It was a kickboxing fight.
If it was a kickboxing fight, okay.
And it was gone. Fucking went off the rails. If it was just a kickboxing fight, you would expect Gane to be the much more comfortable one. But look, in MMA, everybody called it. Mark, you said it in our text thread offline that a lot of analysts try to get cute with their picks, trying to read into too much. And it's just like, dude, it's just stylistically, and this is not to take any credit away from Jon Jones. It was a mismatch.
Yeah.
Gane did not have the skill set to go up against Jon Jones, period, full stop.
I also think, to be honest, it was a mindset thing too. And Jon, there was a point during the press conference before the fight where I guess Jon was asked to like kind of talk about what he sees in Ciryl Gane and what he sees, you know, the biggest challenges and all this stuff. And he broke him down pretty easily. He's like, he doesn't have any takedown defense. He doesn't really have any good defense in that area. You know, he's got good kickboxing, but it's not a kickboxing fight.
Look,
I'm not going to go in there and kickbox him.
We all can run into a little bit of trouble with MMA math, but a little bit went a long way this time. When pretty much everybody was like, well, if Francis Ngannou could take down Ciryl Gane and hold him down, Jon Jones is going to eat his lunch.
Yeah.
And
I also had this air that, you know, through the embeddeds and shit, that Ciryl Gane was just, and Jon Jones said this too, that Ciryl Gane and his team were just sort of like happy to be there, happy to be part of the show, right? Yeah. Like we're in embedded, watch me play FIFA, and like we're chilling out, and you know, and Jon is like, I'm swimming, I'm taking care of my body, I'm watching tape, I'm going in on, you know, on the research and all this stuff. And there's a lot of fighters, and I'm not saying that he needs to be watching tape, I guess, because there are a lot of fighters that take that approach differently depending on their team and kind of how they decide to do things, and that's fine. But there seems to be something where Ciryl Gane needs to disconnect from everything, and I think he does it to his detriment. Whereas essentially somebody like Jon Jones, who's 100% in the fight, 100% in everything, he's coming in there to play chess with you, and you're not even playing the same game with him, and it was evident he wasn't ready. It was too big of a moment.
Yeah,
it would have been interesting to see how Jones would have fared if it was just stand-up, because Jon has done that in the past by attacking his opponent's strengths in certain ways. So I could have seen this play out if Jones wanted to stand up with Ciryl Gane and try to hang with kickboxing, but he didn't. He went path of least resistance and power to him.
Yeah, I mean, he said it all lead up that's what he was going to do. Yeah.
By the way, glory is what I was thinking about.
Fair. I didn't know where you were going.
All right, so we have an idea of what is next for Jon, because it's going to be Stipe. We already know that. Let's quickly, for the sake of time, because we have a lot to cover, and it's already getting late. Mark, let me start with you. Give me the name for Mr. Ciryl Gane. Where does he go from here in the heavyweight division?
So I think there's a couple of choices, and I think it depends on what the plan is for this Curtis Blades and Sergey Pavlovich fight. I know they are fighting each other in April. If the plan is for the winner of that fight to wait for the winner of Bones and Stipe and then fight for the title, then I'm going to say I think Ciryl Gane should fight a returning Tom Aspinall.
Ooh.
If the winner of Blades Pavlovich is going to have to take another fight while they are waiting for Bones and Stipe to happen and then maybe the winner not to be ready for a bit, I kind of think that other fight should be Tom Aspinall, because I don't know who else it would be, in which case I would say throw Gane in there with a Sergey Spivak, which does feel like it's a little bit of a step down, but I think Spivak has earned a chance like that with the way he's been fighting lately. So depending how that number one contender area shakes itself out, I think Aspinall or Spivak.
Omar, what about you? Any other heavyweight names you throw out there for Ciryl Gane?
Yeah, I kind of knew the Blades Pavlovich fight was going down. I would prefer to see Tom Aspinall come back against Ciryl Gane. I think it's a good fight because Ciryl Gane hasn't fought fucking anybody. Like, he kind of had like a quick rise a little bit. They wanted to paint him as essentially, I think at one point they even said something like the next Jon Jones or something along those lines, maybe very early on in his UFC run here. I think we knew that wasn't really the case, especially after the Ngannou fight, but he definitely still shows some promise. But I think Tom Aspinall is somebody who will play a game a little bit more with him. I feel like if he fights against Curtis Blaydes, we're going to see the same shit again. I think Pavlovich is going to run over pretty much everybody at this point. But I think Tom Aspinall, especially with the injury he had, I think it's a great return, and it can give both guys the opportunity to put on a good performance.
Nice. Okay, let's move on. Congrats to Jon Jones for not only winning heavyweight gold, but also for earning a spot on our show's marquee.
Exclusive.
Okay. I know. All right. Other recaps here. In the co-main event, oh, man. If this was any other pay-per-view card, man, this could have been on the marquee. Right, guys? Right, Omar?
Listen, I still don't know if has to be is necessarily accurate when it came to the marquee this week, but it will be what it will be.
If you're listening to this, let us know if Omar is nuts to think that Grasso should have been on the marquee over Jon Jones, or if you happen to agree with him and you too are nuts.
Well, this one was, marquee or not, an absolute stunner in the co-main event. Alexa Grasso defeated Valentina Bullet Shevchenko by submission via face crank. The official time, 4 minutes 34 seconds of round number 4. Oh my God. Was she getting dominated? No. Was she winning the fight? I didn't think so. And she pulled off this incredible back take off of a Valentina spinning heel kick. And it was electric, man. Omar, let me start with you. Alexa Grasso, your girl, tell us what your heart went through in those moments.
I could not have been happier with the result. I could not have been happier with that being the person to beat Shevchenko. All the things that just happened this past Saturday. All of the things. Obviously, we all picked Shevchenko, and that just has to do with the resume. You know what I mean? And not necessarily that I didn't believe in Grasso. It's just a tall order. And it was a tall order. And like Mike said, she wasn't necessarily winning that fight. I think you gave her round 1. I think she made round 1 competitive. I think the striking was definitely on her side, which not a lot of people can say when they're fighting Shevchenko. She hit her with some big shots, especially solid 1-2s, and the 2s landed real nice. But Shevchenko switched it up, went right down to the ground, and she was able to control her and kind of work from the bottom, work on the bottom, I should say, in round 2 and round 3. And it seems like the back take off of a spinning back kick to the body was something that they saw an opportunity to capitalize on. And it's literally half a second that it really took for her to do it. And it was beautiful, man. I mean, you don't really see a lot of people capitalizing on little windows of opportunity like that very often, especially at that high of a level. And that's exactly what Alexa Grasso did. She looked fantastic doing it. It wasn't even a choke, but you could see, especially when she let go of the face crank, you could see there was no blood that was moving past that jawline area. And it was very, 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 very tight. Definitely one of those face cranks where you kind of wonder if she's going to pop my jaw in half. Yeah. So I definitely can see why she was tapping at that point. But it was a fantastic fight, man. A fantastic performance. Grasso really gutted it out because, like I said, she was losing those recent rounds up until that point. And Mexico's got a third champion in 2023. Let's fucking go, UFC Mexico.
And the first female Mexican champion, no?
Yes, sir. Yeah. Female-born or Mexican-born female champion. Yes.
Wow.
Who else was Mexican that was not born there?
They just made that distinction specifically for her.
I'm trying to think if there was one.
Mark, give us your take of Grasso getting this outstanding, stunning upset.
Yeah, this fight had a few different, ups and downs on the roller coaster of the story of the fight. I would say, you're coming in thinking it's Valentina, she's this unbeatable champion, kind of a tough matchup stylistically in most people's minds for Alexa. And then she comes out in round 1, and she's winning the striking. Like, Valentina still had some great counters. She was mixing in the kicks. They were effective. But overall, it was going Grasso's way. She was timing more than a few shots where she stepped in with something big. Valentina hadn't reacted. The hand speed was there for Grasso, and she cracked Valentina a few times in the first round right out of the gate and let her know she was in a fight. And I agree. I scored that round for Grasso. But then you kind of come to the next story point of the fight, which is that you see Valentina adjust like we've seen her do to so many opponents in the past. She goes to the grappling. It guides her through the next 2 rounds. She had some really significant moments on the mat. There was a crucifix for a bit. Alexa had some good moments too, where she was mostly defending well. She, if I remember, there was a guillotine at one point that she kind of had an attempt with. So she was in it. It's not like she was getting dominated, but rounds 2 and 3 went Valentina's way. And you're kind of going into round 4 thinking, is this just how this is going to go? Valentina's going to try to lean on the grappling the rest of the way here. Is there a way Grasso can change the fight? And it happens. One of the most unbelievable, memorable finishes to a title fight that you will ever see. Valentina looks to throw a spinning back kick. Grasso jumps the back and immediately throws in hooks and wraps up a choke, or more so a crank, that she just squeezes for her life. And like Omar mentioned, it's even crazier because she said it was something that they drilled repeatedly because they knew how much Valentina liked to spin, and they thought there was an opportunity there for Alexa to find a moment on the back. And she had one shot at it. She timed it perfectly, put her out. That image of Shevchenko's jawline with a stripe as white as snow countered against like her beet red face was an iconic image. And Alexa Grasso, in a matchup where most people, including myself, as I said on the show last week, didn't think she had the proper tools to overcome Valentina Shevchenko, shut us all up and shocked the world.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have been happier about it. That's
Yeah,
what I
oh,
love
yeah.
about this.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this sport is like when I'm wrong, I'm usually pretty ecstatic about why I'm wrong. And it's fantastic.
I was sad, man. I mean, I'm not a Grasso hater. I'm a Grasso fan for sure, but I've been on the Valentina train for a while. I'm the conductor of the train, actually. So I'm sad to see the champ lose her title. We'll see. We'll see if it's going to be a rematch and how little Valentina spins or something like that.
I mean, so there's a couple things, right? Like Valentina, that's Valentina's first, as far as I'm concerned, real loss. Like that's the one where she kind of has to sit down for a minute and go,
Dude,
"Fuck,
that's true. I didn't even think about that.
That girl actually beat me. This is not a
yeah.
oh cut, they ended the fight, or no, I
split,
definitely
weird
beat
split.
Amanda. Like
Yeah.
look at her face. Look at her face. It's Rose. Might be a little bit more Irish than I was going for.
yeah.
My point is this is the one where Valentina might have to take a step back and be like, all right, somebody got me. Somebody got me for real. Like, we might need to look at some things here. I had another point, but I don't remember what it is now. Maybe I'll say it later.
In terms of what's next for these ladies, is it all but confirmed that it's going to be an immediate rematch?
No.
I mean, the precedent is certainly there.
I haven't seen it
Yeah.
confirmed. I would be shocked if it goes any other way.
I'll tell you this. You talk about precedent like you haven't seen Jose Aldo get butt fucked.
What?
When it comes to rematches?
Well, Connor left the division. It's a little different. Grasso ain't going up a division.
Connor did a lot of unorthodox things there, and Jose Aldo was left holding the stick. So
Connor's going to Connor, man.
If it's me, I'm running
guess.
this back, and I'm making Manon Fior versus Aaron Blanchfield. In the meantime, I know it seems like a lot of people want Tyler Santos to be in that fight. Personally, I think it should be 2 fresh faces in Fior and Blanchfield. I guess I wouldn't hate it if it was Blanchfield and Santos. Blanchfield has to be in the number 1 contender fight, in my opinion. I think she's the most obvious answer. But yeah, I'd go her and Fior.
I like it. Cool. Let's move on. In the interest of time, it's already almost fucking 11 o'clock. Congrats to Alexa Grasso, man. Tremendous stuff. All right.
Sure.
Welterweight fight that went down at a catch weight of 175 pounds. Another fucking barn burner of a fight. Shavkat Rakhmonov defeated Neal by submission via bartender choke at 4
I
minutes
love
and
that.
17 seconds of round number 3.
That's
I think
great.
I stole that from somebody on Twitter.
That's very great.
After you sent us that image, Mark, I've been calling it the Jody.
Did I didn't even send you
Was
guys
it
that.
you? It
You
was
sent that,
Mike?
I think.
No.
Yeah, I had already seen it, but yeah, you sent it.
What's the Jody?
Was it me?
I think it was you, yeah, that sent it.
What's the
Was it
Jody?
me? It's from the movie,
Why am I blanking on the name of the movie right now?
right? Baby Boy.
Baby
It's from the
Boy,
movie
yes.
Baby Boy.
I'll have you see
When Ving Rhames chokes out this fucking guy from Fast and the Furious, Tyrese.
Tyrese.
Oh, Tyrese.
And he literally chokes him out the same way. He just gets behind him.
You didn't see it when we texted it?
Yes,
Jeff
I remember now.
Oh, yeah, Jeff Neal
boy.
posted it, and he was like,
But I
damn,
never
this
saw that
motherfucker
movie.
did me like Jody.
That's right. It was Jeff Neal that posted it. That's right.
Anyhow,
That's right.
getting back on track. Mark, start us off here with your take of this fight. And Jeff Neal certainly holding his own and giving Shavkat Rakhmonov probably, definitely the hardest fight of his undefeated career.
100%. My one of my main thoughts coming into this fight was I have not seen Shavkat Rakhmonov have to sweat or really try that hard, and I was like, will this be the one where we see it? And we did see it. So props to Neal on that alone. But I loved every second of this fight. This was fight of the night for me. And Shavkat Rakhmonov is so good, but at the same time, Jeff Neal would not even think about going away in that fight. Every time I wanted to think like, all right, this is kind of starting to look easier for Shavkat. He's kind of figured this out here. Jeff Neal would just land something flush and remind him that he was still there. And he ended up eating some serious damage as that fight went on, especially in round 3. He really made Shavkat earn it because he was not going away easy. And Shavkat did. He did earn it. That's how good this guy is. He is so calm in striking exchanges. Honestly, maybe too calm. He probably gets hit more than he should be getting hit, if we're being honest. His chin is a little out there. His hands are a little down. It seems like he could be a little smarter defensively, and maybe he will be now because he wasn't really getting touched, and now he was in there with someone who's top level, and now he's seeing how he can get touched. So we'll see how he changes that. But just the way he was mixing his levels with his shots, ripping to the body, changing up his timing, changing up his combo count. He had Jeff Neal guessing so often, which is why Jeff Neal was getting hit clean so often. And he was just punishing him in there. And to Neal's credit, Shavkat couldn't take him down either, which was an interesting wrinkle. We know that Jeff Neal has great takedown D, but I did expect Shavkat to get that thing to the mat at some point, and he couldn't. So that's maybe a question raised if you're looking for something about Shavkat's game that maybe is not as dominant as we imagined. But either way, Shavkat looks at him at the end of round 3 and says, all right, I can't take you down. You won't fall down. So I just fucking big man you with a rear naked choke on the feet. And he still gets himself a finish. He was this close to finally having a fight where he didn't get a finish. He had 16 fights, 16 finishes. Yep. And he's like, no. I'll find a way. And just chokes the man out on the feet. So, yeah, pretty damn impressive from Shavkat.
Omar, give us your take on this finish and how it played out and then on the fight overall.
The first 2 rounds were elite mixed martial arts. The third round was just a backyard fight. At that point, they had been rocked so many times that both of them, they were both pretty damn tired. And there were moments of that third round that got real sloppy. Even the last exchange that allowed Shavkat to kind of get his back like that. Like a lot of that had to do with just these guys just being gassed. And credit to Rakhmonov for being able to pull off a choke as much as they had both worked at that point. He still had enough gas in the tank to be able to actually complete that choke. It was good, man. Jeff Neal didn't want to tap, man. He was out. He was out cold. Yeah. It was a bad, and people have been relating it to the time that John Jones choked out Lyoto Machida and just kind of dropped him and walked away. It's very similar. It was a bad move, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, to me, this fight, it came down to the attributes and why size matters, height matters in most cases. There are the outliers like the Mike Tysons of the world, the Daniel Cormiers of the world, who are on the shorter side and still, creates a recipe that makes them quite dominant. But in many cases, height matters in fighting. Because if I think Jeff Neal's listed at 5'11 or 5'10 and Rakhmonov is like 6'1, 6'2.
I'll tell you
If they
what,
were
though,
this-
man.
What's that?
Jeff Neal did not have any problems finding Hamzat or Rakhmonov's chin at all. A lot of times that height
He's
and
a
stuff
good
like
reach
that will,
and fast
it'll-
hands.
yeah, it'll play into
I was gonna
the
say
ability
fast
to
hand,
land
that
those
would-
shots. But man, he was finding it all fight, all
But
fight.
I'm just saying that in this position that they just kind of wound up in, I think if they're the same exact height, that choke isn't there.
Oh yeah, the choke is not
It's
there.
just not
100%
there.
agree.
Rakhmonov's
Sure.
just able to just put his arm around his neck as though he's giving him a noogie and squeezes and chokes him out like he's his big brother.
Instead.
I agree.
Anyhow,
Yeah.
what is next for Shavkat Rakhmonov? Moves on, gets a finish over Jeff Neal. Omar, let me start with you. Taking a look at the welterweight rankings, if you were the matchmaker of the UFC, what would you do next with Rakhmonov?
Probably like the fifth guy we've tried to throw at this kid, but it's got to be Shavkat and Colby Covington. That's the fight. That's the fight to make, and that's the fight that needs to happen. So get to work.
Yeah. Mark, any other names?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same kind of deal every time we get to the top of this division. It's that there's a few guys sitting there. Colby Covington, we don't know what he's doing. Khamzat Chimaev, we don't know what he's doing. Is he going to fight a middleweight instead of a welterweight? And then Bilal, who's kind of like, someone give me a fight. Maybe it ends up being Shavkat. I don't know. I guess if Usman ever lost to Leon, he could even be in play in this mix here because he's going to need to try to bounce back against someone. So, I don't know what the most realistic answer is. I could see it just ending up being Bilal if Chimaev and Colby keep being in the wind. But yeah, Shavkat and Colby would be pretty cool.
Wow.
So a take from Chael Sonnen about Colby was that Colby's not fighting unless he gets number one contendership, and that the UFC's not trying to give him number one contendership, especially if Usman ends up winning that fight. They're not trying to do Usman Colby 3.
Do you feel like...
See, that's stupid to me. Sorry, Mike.
No, go ahead.
If he took the Chimaev fight, Colby, when they were trying to make it, and he beat Chimaev, he would absolutely fight for a title and no one would blink a fucking eye.
Correct.
So how does that... Why
Because
would you not do that?
So, and that's kind of why Colby's having an issue right now, because obviously if Chimaev won that fight, Chimaev would get a title shot right off of beating Colby. No question.
But
right?
Colby would get it off beating him too, is what I'm saying. Why would he not?
Yeah,
Because they don't want to give it to him, which is why they don't
That's
want
what I'm
to.
saying.
They don't want
Why?
to. They don't want to promise him a number one contendership spot because it sounds like they don't want to do Usman versus Colby. Like if it's Leon, that's fine, but they don't want to do Usman Colby 2-3 because Colby's already gotten beat twice.
I know, but what I'm saying is if he beat Chimaev and the UFC said, okay, he just beat Chimaev, he's getting another title shot, no one would say a word about it if he just beat Khamzat Chimaev. So what is the negative? I don't...
Maybe that's just what they're going with, I guess. That's
don't
the
know.
narrative they're running with.
Are you saying that is it that they don't want to end up with Colby Usman? Or,
That's
is it
the
like
way it
this narrative
seems.
that like the UFC doesn't like Colby and doesn't want him to...
No,
holding
they
him
don't
back.
want to end up with like they don't want to put something on paper where they're obligated to run Colby versus Usman 3. So they don't want to put it in the contracts, that this is a number one contender spot and that you will be getting the next title shot of the winner of Usman Edwards.
So I wonder if we see Leon win this fight coming up, if you
Do
see
we see
Colby
it
get
then?
booked right after that.
Exactly. That was what my thought was.
Or they should just wait.
Because at this point, it's what? A week, 2 weeks?
If we assume, because I feel like I keep hearing Chimaev more and more get linked to middleweight. If we assume he's going to fight at middleweight, would you rather see Colby fight Bilal or Shavkat?
At this point, I'd rather see him fight Shavkat.
Colby, why?
I think Bilal deserves it more personally.
I don't disagree with you. I would rather see the Rakhmonov fight, though, against Colby. I don't disagree with you. I think Bilal has gotten shafted a couple times now at this point. But I just think the fight for me, especially with having seen this most recent fight and sort of the vulnerabilities that he's shown that he's never shown before, now I just want to see these cardio machines go at it and see who ends up winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Shavkat's interesting because, like I kind of said this when I was going through the fight. I didn't think he would never be able to get Geoff Neal down. And you think about it, it's like, if that was Chimaev, do we think Chimaev couldn't have got Geoff Neal down? Like, is Geoff Neal's takedown D that good, or do you think Chimaev doesn't have much of an issue with it? Because if that's the case, maybe Shavkat is not quite the wrestler we had been thinking he was. But, like, I don't know. It's just one fight, so I don't want to make an assumption off one fight. But it's interesting. Even though Geoff Neal kind of got whooped, he kind of opened up some questions.
I mean, listen, Geoff Neal fought, bro. You can't say that about all his fights. But he
sure.
he threw hands in that fight, so I give him credit for sure.
I agree. Totally agree.
Any names, Mark, staying with you of what you would do next with Geoff Neal?
So I'm struggling, to be honest. I feel like I'm not coming up with a name that I feel like is like, okay, that makes perfect sense. Do that. I almost wanted to say to Omar go first to hear what he had to say, because I don't feel like there's any perfect name. Like I said maybe the Burns Jorge loser. But, like, Jorge's not going to fight Geoff Neal if he's the loser of that fight. Maybe Burns probably would. But, like, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really know what makes sense. The winner of Chiesa and the Leech, maybe? There's not like a perfect answer.
Okay.
That was kind of my thought, actually, was the winner of Chiesa versus Li Jingliang.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ready to move on?
Surely.
Let's do it. Okay. In the lightweight division, another great fight. Mateusz Gamrot defeated Jalin Turner by a split decision. Scorecards red. Let me read this off. 29-28 and a 30-27 for Gamrot and a 29-28 for Mr. Turner. Omar, let me toss it over to you first this time. What was your take on the fight? Who do you think won?
It was a rough fight, man. Definitely the most trouble that Turner has had in a fight, I think, since we've seen him. And, I mean, we talked about Gamrot's pace, man. Gamrot's pace, his wrestling, his scrambles, they all played a factor in this fight. And the more that they were used, the more that they were implemented, the harder it ended up being for Turner to keep up. And by the end of the fight, man, he was gassed. I think you could really see that it weared on him. And the third round definitely got overrun by Gamrot. I think where it gets crazy, though, is one I gave to Jalin, 3 I gave to Gamrot, but round 2, you could literally flip a coin and you could probably give me a good reason why one person won over the other in both directions. Mm-hmm. So it was a close fight. Split decision, I thought, was probably not the most surprising decision. I imagined at least one of those judges was going to give the second round to Jalin. If they did, it would be in favor for him. And that's kind of what happened. So I'm not surprised. I thought it was a good fight. I'm okay with the decision, although I wanted Turner to win. And grab, yeah, move on to the next one. It's great.
Mark, what was your take? Who do you think won?
Agree. Split didn't shock me at all. I think every single round of that fight was close. If you wanted to debate any of those rounds, I'm not mad at you. I do think it probably should have gone Gamrot's way. To me, he won round 2, probably won round 3. Maybe I edge round 1 for Turner, but I don't even hate it the other way. And kind of my same take on 3, where I wouldn't hate it if you went to Turner. They were all close, but I edged Gamrot in at least 2 of them. It kind of played out how I thought it might. Jalin Turner, we know he's dangerous. He's got the length. That was troubling Gamrot at times. He would get hit kind of when he wasn't even necessarily set yet. It was like in reset spots just because Turner's so long, and he had to adjust to the fact that jab was landing on him from far. But he did. He has incredible timing on his takedowns. He's a great scrambler. We know this. It's literally what he does. It's what's got him to this point. And we knew it would be some trouble for Jalin Turner. And he fought. He battled. He got up a bunch of times. When he got up, he made sure to do some damage. He dropped Gamrot at one point. But Gamrot was landing his own on the feet too. He was making sure he stayed in it there. And then when he got it down, he was able to do enough. He was able to score enough points. He was able to control enough. And as the fight went on, as much as Turner was battling, he kind of just got outpaced. And it's hard to end up winning the cards when you kind of just keep ending up on your ass and you got to get up again, And Gamrot was able to take the cards. So he did what he does. He did what he had to do in this matchup, especially on short notice. He kind of just had to fall back on what he knew he could probably do to stop Turner. And he did just enough. So a nice win for Gamrot, and I'm sure a learning experience for Turner being in there with a true, top 10 level guy.
Yeah, man. Let's start with Turner this time. Mark, give me the name of who you would expect the UFC to match him up with next, or in an ideal world, what would be next for Jalin Turner?
I mean, I don't hate just still doing Dan Hooker. Like, I know Turner lost, but it kind of still works just as well. I almost want to just go right back to it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think if there's one thing about that Jalin Turner fight, although he lost that fight, proved is that Jalin Turner belongs at the top of this division. I think he belongs and should be hanging with the top 10 of this division until proven otherwise. But he made Gamrot work for that win. You know what I mean? That was a very, very close fight. He definitely had the tools to beat Gamrot in that fight. It just didn't go his way. There were a lot of little moments in that fight that, looking back and in hindsight, I'm sure for him, he might make different choices and different decisions and not allow himself to get stuck in certain positions and allow certain things to happen. But these are all small things, especially early on in somebody like his career, where he can still come back, make those adjustments, and be a significant force in this division.
Yeah. Okay, what about Gamrot? Omar, sticking with you, where do you think Gamrot should go next?
The problem is the top of this division is a mess, right? You've got Islam, you've got Charles, you've got Dustin, you've got Dariush, you've got Justin Gaethje. I think even Fiziev at this point is matched up. I can't remember now off the top of my head who he is matched up against.
Gaethje.
Oh, right, there you go. And then Chandler's doing tough in what weight division we don't even know. So I'm not really sure what you do with Gamrot right now, to be wholly honest. Maybe you give him the winner of Fiziev Gaethje, or the loser, I'm sorry, of Fiziev Gaethje. That might make the most sense when it happens, but it's a mess right now in that division.
Okay, Mark, any other names?
So I totally agree. It's hard to match him up right now. You could wait for some losers like Omar just mentioned. A name I'll throw out that I kind of throw out every now and then. Has Gregor Gillespie died? I don't know what this man's deal is. That would be a fun fucking fight if he ever wanted to come back and actually take a fight. Him and Gamrot would be awesome. The other outside of the box idea is you look at the other guy who's struggling to get a fight right now, which is Arman Tsarukyan. I know they just fought, but it was close as hell. If you told Arman he got a chance to get that fight back, as much as he's trying to get a top guy, I feel like he'd probably be like, hell yeah, I'll get that fight back, because he thinks he beat Gamrot the first time. And Gamrot maybe is a little less interested, but like he did just get his run stopped by Dariush. And if you could pitch him on like, look, our whole top is booked. If you fight Tsarukyan again, you'll be able to break through here. It wouldn't shock me, but I don't know. I think it's probably more likely that some of these top fights play out and these other guys have to wait a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep rolling this show along, gentlemen. We're still in the main card, UFC 285. In the middleweight division, Bo Nickal, 3-0, now 4-0, stays undefeated by getting the win by submission over Jamie Pickett. The official time came at 2:54 of round number 1. Pretty dominant stuff from Bo Nickal still. Mark, let me send it over to you first. Give your take. Bo Nickal with the win.
Dominant is the word. A dominant debut for Bo Nickal. It's funny because he actually closed the distance in that fight by falling, which I'm sure was not on his initial agenda, but it worked out. He got his arms around Pickett. And from that point on, Pickett was in deep trouble. He survived for quite a while. He survived some different positions, some different choke attempts, and even for a split second there, I think I even texted you guys, I started to wonder if Nickal was going to burn his arms out because it just didn't seem like the tap was coming. And then kind of as soon as I had that thought, there it was. So Bo Nickal walks out of there with a debut win inside of 3 minutes. I guess you can't say we learned a whole lot. We didn't really learn anything that we didn't already know about Bo Nickal, but we did get more evidence that he is very good.
Yeah, man. Omar, what about you?
Yeah, I thought it was a great performance. I have Anthony Smith gave some feedback about his performance and about how he's still very wrestly using his jiu-jitsu and how he's not really, the choke was basically something he could have gotten sooner and all this other stuff, which I think is an interesting take. I didn't really get that from watching the fight personally. But I think Anthony Smith is probably more credentialed than I am to look at those little nuances, especially from the ground. So it's an interesting take. It might be Bo Nickal might run into some real adversity later on down the road. I think you had Jamie Pickett at 53 at the time, something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's about right. I mean, if Bo Nickal couldn't get in at the 50s, then I don't think we'd be really going anywhere, even talking about him really at this point. But I think that's about right, and I think we'll really see where he's at once we start hitting the 30s and the 20s and stuff, and he runs into some real solid competition.
Yeah, I've inserted Bo Nickal at number 47 for the time being. And again, for anyone listening that thinks that's wild, like I don't rank based on potential. I rank on what has actually occurred thus far.
Okay, where do you want him to rank him? 15? What's wrong with you people?
I mean, sometimes in other rankings, like when a guy's a stud, they'll kind of like throw him up high. But I don't mean like 15, but like 30, or I'll wait till he beats some guys.
Meh. Only guys like that should be thrown around are people with real resumes.
Yeah.
Don't you love that he's a middleweight and he's in the same division as Chimaev? I feel like they have to fight eventually.
I mean, he's got a lot of work to do to get to that fight.
Sure. But stylistically, come on.
Yeah.
If he gets fast tracked like Chimaev, not really.
Right?
Well, I'm saying he's got to beat some guys.
He does, but I think not nearly as many as one might think. He might need 2 more good performances, like real solid,
3 or 4
capitalizing performances.
I think,
and he might be straight.
I think 3 or 4.
They want him bad up there.
They do.
I know they do. And on that note, I think that they will think long and hard about what his next matchup is, because I think that still at this point, you want to make sure you don't put him across from a guy who might knock him out. Because I was trying to think of where you go with him next, and I was like, if you don't want to get too aggressive, like maybe you go with like a Puna Soriano. I'm sure he could take him down. But then like even a matchup like that, I was like, you know what? I don't think you do, because if he takes a wrong step, that's the type of guy where one shot could end it, and I don't think you want to take that risk. So I actually ended up settling on Wellington Turman because I feel like he does not carry that type of threat. He has grappling credentials. But if Bo Nickal is what Bo Nickal is billed to be, you would like to think he can pass that test. So that's actually the name I ended up settling on for him.
Okay.
And for reference, I have Wellington Turman as my number 35 middleweight right now. So it would be another, step up the ladder.
Okay.
I have Andre Petrosky as the next step for Bo Nickal. It's a you got to have a little danger in there, dude. That's
more into the fire.
You gotta put a little Tabasco on that shit, baby. You gotta just a drop, just a little bit. You gotta make it spicy.
He's fighting Petrosian, by the way. You just announced that last week, remember? So he'd have to win that one. Or lose that one, I guess. You could do it either. Honestly, he'd probably have to lose that one for it to make sense.
I have no access to all of these fights in one place. And RankingMMA.com, I don't know if this guy is like in a coma or what, but he's not.
Oh, yeah, dude. I don't know what happened in Ranking MMA. It's over. I mean, I don't know if it's over for good, but it's been over.
The one thing, if nothing else, that I loved this site for was that it always told me what their next fight was.
Yeah.
And it's killing me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, we don't have to, match up Jamie Pickett's next fight. So let's move on to. Sorry, Jamie.
R.I.P. Jamie Pickett.
Sorry. No disrespect.
Ice those nuts, bro.
Yeah,
Oh, but
yeah, poor guy.
Yeah, that was a shitty way to go.
It was. Yeah, it was. Okay. One more recap, and then we'll jump into our lightning round. Here we go. In the middleweight division, Dricus du Plessis gets the biggest win of his career, defeating the biggest name thus far, arguably. In Derek Brunson, TKO round number 2 at 4:59, pretty late in the round. Omar, start us off here. What'd you make of du Plessis getting it done?
man, Derek Brunson had such a good first round. Did Derek Brunson things. Took him down. Had some striking going on. And the second round happens. And he's like, I guess I'm tired. And so Derek Brunson started doing dumbass Derek Brunson things. And he got his ass kicked. And it drove me absolutely crazy. When I see Derek Brunson doing that shit, it drives me absolutely up the wall.
Just lose it?
It's not losing. Like, if there's one thing that I've learned watching the guys at the gym, you have to learn how to fight tired. It is an eventuality that you will fight tired. Like, no one, hardly anybody comes out of a fight, with the exception of John Jones, and is like, I'm not tired. It doesn't really happen unless you're like a chooch and like not really fighting in the fight. But it's crazy to me that this man only had a round of gas. That's it. You knew you were coming into this fight. You knew what was going on. You knew what was happening. Dricus, I still don't necessarily think Dricus is better of a fighter than this fucking guy. Why am I missing his name now?
Derek
Brunson. I don't think he's a better fighter than Derek Brunson. But I also don't think Derek Brunson fought for 2 rounds in that fight. And it makes for a very angry reaction to how that fight went.
Yeah. Yeah, when Brunson's cardio goes down, he does look very sloppy.
But how many times does your cardio need to totally explode from the inside out before you run up a goddamn hill or something? Like, if you know this is your problem, then this is the one thing you need to be focusing on. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't keep happening over at one round. Round?
I know, yeah. His second round of this fight and his previous fight against Cannonier. Like,
I don't think
it
is purely a cardio thing. Like, we touched on this last week. I think there is an element to it that when he has to move in ways that are not necessarily his choice, like when he is no longer the one dictating the fight, that he falls apart, that he gets sloppy, and that he doesn't do well reactively, and that he almost not panics, but it's like a mental mix that starts to drain him. Like, I don't think it's just a straight run up a hill thing. I think there's a mental aspect to it.
Bro, he just stopped fighting.
That's what I mean.
Stopped fighting.
That's what I mean.
It's crazy.
And he out-grappled du Plessis in round 1 for sure. Du Plessis did well to defend. He never made it easy, but he out-grappled him. And then the biggest moment of round 1 was probably Brunson on the feet. He had that really nice flurry where he hurt du Plessis a bit. But then, we get into round 2. It's du Plessis who's landing the harder, cleaner shots. He's ripping up Brunson's leg now. Starts to limit his movement a little bit, and then that's when you see it. As soon as Brunson was like, oh, fuck, like he's kind of throwing me off. I'm getting a little stuck here. My leg's starting to hurt. He was just like, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, if the fight is not going exactly how he drew it up, it seems like he just, again, it's like a mental physical mix to me. It just goes out the window. And it happened again here. We called it, at least I don't remember if we all did, but a couple of us did. And, and he got hit hard by a bunch of shots, too, in his defense. There was a lot landing clean. But it was a big one for du Plessis. Tough first round. He fought back. He kept his usual relentless pace. Fought through even though he looks tired like he always does. And he just put it on Brunson until he broke him. And that's a big win for Dricus to really break through here.
Yeah, du Plessis is he also does not have the best cardio, but I will say Du Plessis is the best tired fighter. He's the best. He has the best cardio of bad cardio guys.
So
I
I know
even
we've been
think
making
that's
that point
true.
about him a lot, that he always looks tired, but somehow just fights through it. Rogan made a point on the broadcast. I don't know if you guys heard it. He said that he was talking to Du Plessis about it, about how like you always look really tired in there, but you just kind of keep fighting. What's up with that? And Du Plessis said that he's not always as tired as he appears, that he badly needs surgery on his nose, that he can barely breathe through it, and he keeps putting it off. So he's always kind of trying to huff and puff through his mouth.
Oh.
Well,
So
that's
I
not a
wonder
great way to
if
breathe.
it's-
So
Yeah, I wonder if it's just deceptive visually. And that's why we're like, man, he really looks tired, but he kind of keeps throwing, and that would sort of make sense.
but I don't think you can breathe properly without using your nose. So like it has to affect his cardio
Yeah,
to some extent.
He actually said he was going to get the surgery, that he had made a date, and then they offered him the Brunson fight, and he was like, well, fuck, I guess I won't get it yet.
So that's how you do it. Is you're fighting Brunson on a pay-per-view, or at least a card that includes a pay-per-view, and you're like, I can beat Brunson.
Right.
It's fine.
Big day, man. Hey, before this 2-fight losing streak, Brunson was on a 5-fight win streak with some pretty nice names. He defeated Theodoro, R.I.P., Ian Heinisch, Shabazian, Kevin Holland, and Darren Till. He also has wins over Lyoto Machida and Uriah Hall. And before this, just to belabor this point one more time, before this 2-fight losing streak, he only lost to Adesanya, Jacare, Anderson, and Whitaker. So, like, he had only lost to the best, and he was on a 5-fight win streak, beating some good names. It was like, ooh, maybe Brunson is, like, really top tier here. These last two losses, guys, bad losses.
But
bad,
dude,
bad knockouts.
he is top tier. But whatever has happened, he's not. If he was fighting and he looked terrible or something, or like somebody looked better than him, that'd be one thing. But he's just not doing shit. Like, whatever is going on in his head that is stopping him from fighting is the problem. It's not his technique. It's not. I'm sure he knows what to do in those situations to an extent, right? He's drilled it. I'm sure he's got the fight IQ. But Mark, you might be right. There might be some sort of sports psychology IQ thing going on there that's not allowing him to really do what he needs to do. And it's a shame, man, because he's got talent, but like he's getting his ass kicked out there. It's not great.
Yeah. They threw in the towel in the end.
I don't blame him.
He was getting beat up bad.
Bro, how frustrating must it be to be his coach?
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be infuriating to be this man's coach, especially if he's doing great things in the gym. And you get to the center stage, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? Like, what is happening here?
Dude, and these last 2 fights ended very similarly.
He looks horrible on the ground too. Like when he's tired, he looks like somebody is murdering him. Like his arms are just in the air. He just looks like he's trying to do any and everything to move, and his body just doesn't work. I hope something happens with him, man, because that is not it. It's not it.
All right. Do we match up Du Plessis?
We didn't yet.
Give me a name quick, Mark. Let's move on.
I mean, he's in this kind of top grouping of middleweight that has existed for a while now. Obviously, you have Izzy and Pereira still fighting, but there's been this bunch at the top of middleweight for a minute here. Vettori, Cannonier, Costa, Strickland, and he's now in it. So, obviously, Vettori is booked for a fight. The other 3 are not. I don't know how these bookings are going to shake out. I know Dricus was already talking like he should get a title shot. I think that's a little much. If it's me, he's in there with one of those 3 other guys: Cannonier, Costa, Strickland. One of those 3.
Whew, any of those, I'm down for it.
Yeah,
Omar,
Strickland is my choice in that of that little entourage.
Strickland to Du Plessis, wow.
I think Strickland destroys him. I think Strickland
do?
I think Strickland absolutely destroys him.
I don't know, man.
But Du Plessis is such a tank.
He is.
But like,
he just
he
keeps
though?
winning and finishing.
I'm not sold, kid. I'm not like even this Derek Brunson, the actual performance itself, like it looked like he was lucky to have gotten rounds 2 and 3. You know what I mean? Like I don't come away from there like, oh, Dricus was dope. Like, it was more like fucking Brunson was mids, and it was just really sad.
Yeah, but
Really
sometimes
sad.
there's fighters like that, dude, who never leave you saying like, "Wow, this guy's unreal," and then they're like fighting for a title, and you're like, "Fuck, like, can't believe this guy got here," but here he is.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Dricus is kind of being that guy right now.
Perfect. The good matchups, a little bit of luck takes you a long way.
Yeah.
All right, let's hop into our lightning round. Thank you.
What the fuck was
Fuck
that?
is
That
that?
was a lightning sound. That was a shitty lightning sound effect.
Why'd you do it when Omar does it though?
We have lightning effects in post. What is
Oh,
this
yeah.
cheap
Do that?
shit?
Did you not know? Do you
I
never
forgot.
watch our videos?
He doesn't
Forgot
watch
you-
our shit.
I forgot you did that.
He
Hey,
does it
Mike.
every week.
Hey, Mike. How about you like, comment, and subscribe, you son of a bitch? Click on the little bell icon on the bottom
Oh man.
so you don't miss an episode. How about that?
I don't miss an episode. I'm in the episodes.
Out of control.
Oh, Jesus.
All right.
Kid's
lightning round.
never listened to us back in his life.
Go. Let's go. Okay.
He doesn't even know where we
Okay.
post. What are we on YouTube?
On Rumble? I don't know.
I'm not. You know what? I'm not even going to put in a sound effect now this week. It's
You
just going to
shouldn't.
be that
The
shit.
shitty sound effect that I found on YouTube.
That shitty fart from your
I
phone is what I'm
forgot.
putting
Listen,
up
I
there.
forgot. It should have been a fart. It should have just been like, okay, bantamweights.
All right, yo, seriously. These are some big fights, but let's try to not get crazy here. We have a shitload to do, and it's late as fuck.
We do.
Okay, bantamweight division. Cody Garbrandt defeated Trevin Jones by UD Mark. Go first. Set the tone, Mark. Set the tone.
This was really underwhelming. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It was two guys who wanted to counter. Neither one could find out how to score unless the other guy went first. Cody then figured out he could at least mix in the takedowns and kind of do some work that way. But for Trevin Jones to get a big fight against a notoriously chinny guy and not throw any punches is just inexplicable. So a rough night for him, but good for Cody for bouncing back with a win.
Omar.
Cody fought terrified of getting knocked out. Trevin Jones fought terrified of Cody Garbrandt because of who Cody Garbrandt, I guess, carries with him. And that fight was a fucking boo. Absolutely fucking boo. Ugh.
Women's flyweight Amanda Ribas defeated Viviane Araújo by unanimous decision 30-27, 30-27, 29-27, and 30-26. Omar, start us off.
Listen. Ribas gave Araújo all she could deal with. And I said it last week, man. I said that the whole thing is going to be, can she use her movement to dodge Araújo, to get out of the way of damage and land her own shit? And you damn right she did. And she spent 3 rounds doing it. She beat the crap out of that girl. I don't think there was any other way of that fight being scored. And I'm glad she got the win. Great performance.
Mark.
Amanda Ribas, baby. Let's
go, baby.
go. I said 2 things for my main reasons why I picked her last week. One was that I thought her jiu-jitsu technique was so good that it would override any of the natural strength that Araújo possesses, and we saw that on full display. The technique carried the day. And the other was that I thought Ribas was getting more and more comfortable striking every fight, and boy is she. She freaking dropped Viviane Araújo. By round 3, she's throwing spinning shit, jumping shit. Like, it's coming, man. And she's a dog, too. She goes for all 15. She tries to put it on you in all facets. Wherever that fight is, she is coming. So a really great performance for Amanda Ribas, and I'm excited to see who she gets for her next fight.
Okay. Marc-Andre Barrio, round 2, TKO over Julian Marquez. Mark, start us off.
Yeah, I actually liked how Julian Marquez looked to start this fight. It was kind of like a new version of him. It was some great controlled aggression. I thought he was more accurate than I feel we've seen in the past. Less winging punches, more actually thinking about what he was throwing. He had Barrio backing up and honestly not even reacting well on a lot of punches. Like, through round 1, I was like, shit, Julian Marquez looks good. New camp and everything. But, man, as soon as Barrio sensed the slightest dip in Marquez's pace in round 2, it was like he just said, all right, it's go time. And he dialed it up to 100 miles per hour and stayed there for 3 straight minutes until, I mean, he didn't breathe, Barrio, for 3 minutes. And he just legitimately sprinted. And it was an onslaught. And honestly, it went on longer than it should have. I don't know what Mark Smith was doing exactly in there, but eventually Marquez just couldn't take it anymore. So a great win for Barrios.
Okay.
Omar? Oh, I thought you were skipping.
Yeah, this one, I normally would have been upset that Julian Marquez lost yet again. But honestly, man, I thought it was a good performance from him. I thought it was a nice little slugfest. Barrios had to work for that. Marquez was not one to go out easily. Good fight, man. Good fight. It got kind of sloppy towards the second round like I thought it was going to. These guys spent a lot of energy in the first round. But still, fun fight. Good conclusion.
Okay, jumping down into the early prelims now. Ian Gary, round 3 TKO over Song Kanan. Omar.
Man, I really love Ian Gary's use of distance management. Not a lot of guys, I think, that are active right now in the UFC use the distance as well as he does. He's 1-2 slip, 1-2, and he uses it a lot. And it's very fundamental, and it's something that he seems to have mastered quite a bit and uses it a ton in his fights, and it works for him. Kind of fucked up in the end of the first round and got hit with a big shot. It dropped him, like his legs just gave out completely, but he was able to recover, stay alive, I guess you could say. But Song made a lot of messed up decisions in that fight as well. Kept him grappling when he shouldn't have and all this other jazz. But Gary looked great, man. Especially once you got to round 2 and 3, he pieced him up, lit him up the entire time. Round 3 was devastating and left Song all kinds of bloody.
Mark?
It's coming together. He's starting to show what all the hype was about. I could watch that man strike all day. Holy hell, he has some gorgeous striking. Of course, he had the moment where he got dropped, but he bounced back. That moment aside, he controlled the range beautifully all fight long. Textbook. He looked slick as hell. He was landing to all levels. And really, it's the fundamentals that carry him. He just fights behind a great jab and some nice calf kicks and push kicks. And you're worried so much about those things because he's so effective with them that he gets to mix in these beautiful blitzes. And when he's humming like that and flowing, it's tough to beat him. And it's time to give this man a real opponent now. No more freaking stupid matchups. Someone real.
Okay. Cameron Simon, majority decision over Mana Martinez. Mark, sticking with you.
So there's another one we nailed. Mana's a tough dude who was there to fight, just like we knew he would be, but Cameron was a level above on the feet technique-wise. He had the wrestling in his back pocket to use when he wanted, and aside from his issues with fouls through 2 UFC fights now, he looks really good thus far.
Omar?
Bro, the dick shots were awful because you could hear the cup.
Oh,
You could hear it bang twice.
I don't know which one was worse. The first one was like a loud pop. The second one was like a thud. Both of them, I was just like, oh.
It's so bad, man. But yeah, I thought it was a rough fight for Simon. I had him winning as well. He had a lot more tools and took a lot of different avenues. I think the fight got progressively worse for Mana Martinez as it went on. But Mana didn't make it easy, man. His striking, I thought, was pretty good. He was countering a lot. They were swinging a lot. They were landing a lot. So it was definitely a good performance, a good showing, of his tenacity, of his ability. But like I said before, and I said this last week, and I don't want to disrespect Mana because I do think he's a really tough guy and a really good fighter. But I just don't think that this level right now is working for him. I think these guys are just a step above. I think they just have more tools. So I hope he can figure that part out and do something where he's finding a bit more success overall.
Okay. Tabitha Ricci, submission via armbar over Jessica Penne, 2:14 of round number 2. Omar, start us off.
Yeah, dude, I can't pick Jessica Penne no more. I don't know I don't think I picked her this round. I think I did go with Ricci by unanimous decision, but it's just not. It's not working for me anymore, man. She doesn't look the same. It's not the same tenacity as it once was. She still doesn't. She's still missing a ton of tools to be able to get her from A to finish. And she takes a lot of damage trying to figure that part out. And Ricci is a beast. So yeah,
She is.
crazy.
Mark.
Yeah, I mean, Penn is 40-something years old. I don't think it's going to change for her at this point. I think she is who she is for the most part. But Tabitha Ricci packs a lot of power in a small frame. Not punching power, but power in clinch positions and 50-50 positions on top. She can really make herself heavy, and her technique on her throws is beautiful, too. She hit more than one in that fight. And the way she took that armbar, oh, my God. Like, that was a moment for Ricci right there. A breakthrough performance for her.
Nice. Two more. Farid Basharat, unanimous decision over Damon Blackshear. Mark?
Farid fights a lot like his brother, to be honest. He doesn't seem to be the same threat striking-wise that Javid is in terms of the danger. But the rest of the game is very similar. I feel similar wrestling, similar grappling, similar use of the striking minus the power, I would say. He wasn't a tough fight here. I said it last week. Blackshear is good. I knew he wouldn't be an easy ask, but Farid was able to lean on the wrestling and the grappling and edge this one out just enough. And he was in some trouble at the end, boy. He was stuck in that triangle. If there was 5 more seconds in that fight, I wonder what would have happened. But he survived, and he gets a nice win.
Omar?
I think some of it, too, is that he got a little lazy at the end there. I think he kind of thought he had it. And, he'd been playing around his guard for a minute, and he didn't really worry about it. Yeah. And next thing you know, he's trapped up in there, and you're right. Another couple seconds, that boy might have just went out, tap or not.
Yeah.
It was a good fight, though. A good showing from Basharat. I didn't really see anything super outstanding, if we're being wholly honest. I thought Blackshear had a lot of good moments on the bottom, especially using the butterfly guard and really being able to pull off a couple of different sweeps and changing the control that Basharat had. Basharat played heavy, though, and he didn't really do a lot of damage, I thought, from the ground position, which I'm not a super fan of, if we're being honest. Once we're on the ground, I'd like to see guys put a little bit more oomph to their ground game and not just stay there. So I think if there's one scratch that I found, it was that for Basharat.
Okay, last one. Loik Radzhabov defeats Esteban. How do you say his last name?
It's not robotics. I don't know what's happening. That was an autocorrect. It's Roybovics, I think.
Ribovich, I think. Or Ribovics. Yeah, I forgot how to say it.
UD. Omar, start us off.
This was a crazy-ass fight. And you got to give Esteban a lot of credit when it comes to the fact that this guy is credentialed. He's been in there with real guys, real competition, and he took it to him, man. Kid's got a chin as well because he got hit with some nasty-ass shots. But you can see, man, by the third round, Loik had about enough. Like, he was... He was... If you told him, maybe let's end this fight early, he'd be like, that's great. Let's do that. He was done.
Great idea.
He won that fight. I'm not going to dispute the decision. I thought it was a fair decision. I think this was a great showing for Ribovics. I hope to see more of him, if we're being honest. I thought he was super dynamic, very flowy. I think the power is really what edged it out. But even his ground game and his wrestling and stuff like that, I thought was pretty damn legit. Considering the credentials that Loik has, I'm excited to see this man fight again.
Nice. Mark, take us home.
Yeah, these boys scrapped in this one, and I agree. You got to give some props to Esteban because he definitely brought it, but Loik looked good to no one's surprise. We know his game from his PFL performances. I'm not saying he's a title contender or anything of that nature, but he is definitely going to be a fun addition to the lightweight division in the UFC. He's got some skills. He's willing to get in there and fight, as you saw in that one, and he gets a nice debut win.
And that does it, gentlemen, for our lightning round this week.
Double down, huh? I was like, oh, he's not going to do it the second time around. And here he goes.
Either.
This fucking guy.
Shoot.
I had to.